hearing it. So we're good to go. Okay, so let's start over. So thanks for having us. I appreciate the opportunity and appreciate everybody taking the time to join us this morning. And I do want to make sure to thank Marshall, Dave, Kathleen, and Jeremy, everybody at LCA for inviting us. And just to take a moment to say, you know, we're really appreciative of the fact that we have such a great organization here in downtown Lancaster that is such a proactive part of maintaining the well-being of the local business community. So we do appreciate that, and we just want to make sure to take a moment to mention that. So as Marshall mentioned, I'm Mark from Connective. I'm an account director and owner. I have two of our team members here this morning joining us, so I'm going to let them go ahead and introduce themselves before we get any further.
My name is Kevin Reinmiller, and I am our creative director, and I help bring our team's creativity to the table while making sure that we exceed our clients' expectations.
Hi, my name is Elisa. I'm a lead content marketing strategist, and so I work very closely with all of our content clients to basically put great messages out there in the best way possible.
Great. So we are, a marketing agency. We're located right here in downtown Lancaster. And a big part of what we do for a lot of clients is work on social media strategy, social media management, and social media paid advertising. So that's a big part of what we're going to focus on here this morning. So we have about 15 minutes overall left with the presentation, which is, not a ton of time to get into all the nitty-gritty details, but we did want to, use that time to try to talk about some of the big picture concepts and really focus on what can you be doing during this time, and what are the opportunities available through social media to increase visibility for your business, to strengthen the relationships you have with existing customers, and to initiate new relationships with potential customers. And since we want to make sure that we're able to address any concerns or topics that people are really interested in, we're going to leave about 8 to 10 minutes at the end there to just answer some questions. And then obviously we'll be available after the meeting via email questions and things of that nature. So as we all know, this COVID situation is really impacting everybody across the globe. The business community throughout the world is really feeling the impact of this. We're impacted by it. Our clients are impacted by it. And right now, a lot of business owners, if not all business owners, are facing a lot of uncertainty. This leads to questions of all sorts when it comes to your business. One of them is how to handle marketing and what you should be doing with marketing. And then you can divide that into a bunch of different topics. We're hearing a lot of the same types of questions from most of our clients. And in terms of social media and what questions they have, we're hearing a lot of questions. Should we be active right now? Should we be on social media? Should we be posting? What should we be posting about? What types of content is appropriate right now? What tone should we be taking? Is it okay to be promoting my business right now? This is a really serious situation. Are people going to look at me and say, why are you promoting your business right now? There's serious things happening. We hear these questions a lot. What about paid advertising? Should we be spending money right now on advertising? Is that smart? Is it, responsible with the situation that's going on? So these are the kind of things we're hearing a lot of. And just want to let everybody know that it's not just you. It's not just, a situation that you're going through. This is just about every business that we know. And we're working with clients right now, helping them strategize how to stay active and explaining why they should be active. And that's really what we want to focus on today. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Elisa, who's going to start talking a little bit about why it is important to stay active on social media right now.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me? Perfect. So,
flip the slides, maybe.
Good question. Hey, Jeremy, if you want to go ahead to, I think it's slide 3. I talked over probably the first 2 slides. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. So like Mark is saying, basically right now what we're seeing on social is that all the conversation that what's happening in stores, in the restaurants and things like that, they're still happening, but they're just happening in a different way right now. As we've been seeing, it's important for basically all businesses, whether you're temporarily closed or if you're open both of those limited services. It's still really important to have that conversation and continue it because it's still happening. It's happening in different things, and right now it's social media. So what we've seen is that with social media, we all have already, and it's they're free to use and they're fantastic outlets where we can be using them a little bit more and to their best of our abilities. We've been seeing from Facebook and from Instagram and all these large platforms that there's more people online right now than ever before. There are more active users because people are going to social to have those conversations. They're looking to have a little bit more information and understand what's going on from people that they would interact with all the time. And that includes our businesses. So right now we've been seeing that, yes, it's definitely important that we want to be posting regularly. And it's always important with our messaging to be a little bit concerned with what's going on. But at the same time, with advertising especially, it's all right to take a pause. It makes sense and it flows with what's happening in the community, but it's in the long run going to be better if we can just put a little bit more effort into it right now. And that can even be with a smaller budget. It can have a larger impact right now with a small budget because there's more people online and there's less competition from other brands. And it's always expensive to grow those audiences and to get those meaningful people online, but building those relationships now will put you in a better place. Once everyone can open up their doors again, we'll be in a better opportunity to really come back running. So I'll hand you over to Kevin now, and he's going to talk a little bit more about what that opportunity means.
All right, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So there's an opportunity that has existed and it's going to continue to exist, and it lies with social media. But before I get into that, I'd regret if I didn't mention there are things that you need to do before you just start talking to your audience. It's really important that we recognize that you need to adapt. Everyone's lives has changed significantly for some and a little less significantly for others. But the last thing you can do is act like it's business as usual with your business model and with your messaging. So there are things that we've seen across the country and globally as far as adjustments to business model. We've seen curbside pickup be a #1 move. We've seen delivery of retail as well as food. Locally, we've seen individuals take their retail store and shift their model towards gift certificates and offering rewards. Something you've seen, probably in the restaurant business around the holidays. Instead of buying $100 worth of gift cards for $100, you're buying $120 worth of gift cards for $100. You see places like the Fulton Theater doing events on their Facebook to try to keep the arts alive. So they're adapting as they go. You see medicine utilizing telemedicine, having appointments over the phone. So everyone that we're talking to today, I can rest assured that you've likely made an adjustment with your model in some regard. And that's great. We need to adapt. And we need to be very patient with that. But when you adapt, you have to be ready to do so a little bit more frequently than you might have in the past. You may have looked at quarterly meetings to look at your marketing and business strategy, maybe annually or biannually. We really want to make sure that we're having those conversations internally more weekly and monthly at this time. The second thing, which really leads into our principle today, is your messaging. Business is not as usual, and you can't be the weatherman that's telling people to go out with a sweater on when you're standing there in shorts. So we need to make it very clear that we're aware of the climate right now. We cannot be oblivious to that. I recognize that Nike, day one of this all occurring, put out a "we're here for you." Am I suggesting that we all drastically change our messaging to "we're here for you"? No, I'm not saying put COVID-19 on everything, but I am saying have a comment and have a stance and make it public facing. Whether or not that's an email to your existing audience, a post on your Facebook, or a banner on your website, make sure that you are establishing yourself as someone that is entrenched in your community and you're ready to continue forward with your community. The opportunity that exists, like we had mentioned, has existed for some time now. It's the opportunity to build relationships and network via social media. The truth is, though, that while it's always been the largest conversation that's being had online, right now it's the only conversation that's being had. So that's why right now is the time to buy in and to consider, this is how I'm going to continue having over-the-counter conversations, or how I'm going to answer phone calls for people that are wondering whether or not they should even step foot in my store. Social media is a beautiful opportunity for people to have one-on-one, word-of-mouth conversations, as well as allow people to share your information to their own network. So focus on building relationships and networking by using social media. And you need to do it intentionally. Have the conversations that your audience is looking to you to have. We're sitting, all of us right now, likely in our own homes, and we probably, as Lisa had mentioned, can admit that our screen time has gone up in some capacity. So what do we talk to these individuals about that are tuning in? How do we capture their attention and how do we engage them? Well, below we have a list of categories that we would highly recommend you consider. And for today's purposes, we're going to suggest that you consider first using video. And I'm not saying set a camera up and make sure that audio is attached. I'm saying be authentic, pull out your cell phone, have a friend hold it for you or a colleague, and just be honest with your audience and interact with them. They're looking for that engagement. If you're not comfortable to dive right into video, that's okay. These can be turned into blog posts. These can be turned into photos that you take or graphics that you share with post copy that kind of focuses on these. Now, again, the two top things are very important to consider. Your business model and your messaging must change and it must adapt. So when we talk about these topics, we're making sure that you're aware that if you're going to share a big announcement, as we have listed as one of the categories, you can't ignore the fact that people are now able to go outside. So announcing that you have a new item in store and not kind of commenting on the fact that they obviously can't step foot in your store would be a misstep. So let's go through some of the categories. Frequently asked questions. So when you shop with any retailer or any business, you trust them to be the expert with the service or product they provide you. There's an opportunity there. So take some time and answer a couple questions related to your business and choose frequently asked questions. This is a way for you to kind of trick the system and come across like you know exactly what they're looking for. If you take a quick 5 minutes to do a Google search, if you don't have some that come to you very often, you can do that. Take the opportunity to do some announcements. Let people know that you're doing a sale or you're doing different hours, or maybe you're interested in networking with a different business and you're partnering with them for an upcoming event. Right now is a great time to have testimonials. Have some of your most frequent shoppers or clients say something nice about you. I know it's going to maybe be a little uncomfortable to reach out and ask, so possibly exchange a testimonial. Exchange a testimonial for a partner or a business that you do business with. Go behind the scenes. Show people what goes into building your business. An example would be the Fulton Theater recently changed their costume shop into an area that can produce masks. That's perfect. That does everything we're talking about. The business model changed, the message changed. Now they're showing people behind the scenes, all without doing a hard sell. They're staying front and center with their audience. And they're likely going to catch some fringe people, some individuals that never paid attention before, because people may not want to go see a show, but they're really supporting their community, or they're interested in seeing how people are adapting. Take a minute and introduce your team. The whole thing above about building relationships is coming from being able to trust people. This isn't new. Everyone here's probably heard this, but people do business with people they like, people they know, and people they trust. Let's make sure that they know us. Let's do a meet the team. And you can find a laundry list of questions that are both fun and educational. Meet the teams are a really good time, and you're going to have engagement. The trick with social media is the second someone sees someone they recognize, they like it, they comment it, they share it. So that's kind of the trick behind these building relationship things and getting you and your team or the individuals that support your business on your feed, on your channel. Again, the biggest conversation in the world is happening right now on social media, and people are looking to jump channels. You could do DIYs or tips. You could talk to people about how to do things themselves at home. One of the awesome things we're doing for a business called Alpha Bone here in Lancaster. I'm sure everyone is well aware of John Gertie, but he recently did a children's book. So one of the things we're considering doing is taking the paintings that he made and stripping them down into black and white drawings for people to do at home with their kids. So there's DIYs. Everyone has things that they could probably speak to their audience about and say, have you ever wanted to, on your own? Doesn't even have to be exactly the service you provide, but if it's on a fringe of something that you're an expert in, give that a consideration. So there's several different ways that you can go about creating the content, and these categories are just, they're starting points. They're things for you to consider what type of content you're going to bring to the people. This is all easy to say. This is all easy to kind of walk through. But I'll hand it over to Mark, and Mark can kind of talk about how do you put a plan in process, how do you take some chances, and where do you go next?
Mark, you're muted again.
One of these days I'll figure out how to use this. So so thanks for the info, Kevin and Elisa. And so really what we're trying to talk about right now is the big picture. And like I said, there's not a lot of time to kind of get into the nitty gritty, but the key, and just kind of to recap what we're talking about, is it's really important to be active right now. It's really important to stay active. There's all sorts of reasons. You know, one of them even is just the simple fact that based on how the platforms themselves function, you know, they use your activity and the engagement your activity gets as part of an algorithm to determine how visible your content is. So if you start slowing down or you disappear from the platform, it's going to be even harder to get back on later in front of people. So there's a lot of reasons, you know, behind why it's important. And really the key is just being creative, being genuine, being yourself, and just showing people, you know, more about your business, who you are, supporting your community, and being able to be present as part of this situation while it's happening to everybody around us. And as far as what's next and how you can kind of take this to the next level, it's really about strategizing, coming up with some creative ideas, and then putting in a plan to implement it. I mean, that's something we do with a lot of our clients, and we know that not everybody is working with, you know, an agency or a partner, but it is something you can do yourself. You know, look at putting together a small content calendar of just a couple ideas of things that you want to talk about over the next couple weeks, or, you know, plan out a few things over a couple days. It's not that hard to put together at least an initial plan to get started. We're happy to kind of help with that as well. One of the things we did want to offer is that if, you know, anybody who's on this call, if you're interested, we'd be happy to do a complimentary 20-minute brainstorm session. You know, we'll try to do as many as we can that we can fit into our schedule. We just want to try to offer that as a way to kind of continue this, but also offer some more specific and individualized advice and direction. And like I said earlier, it's really important to us to make sure that we focus on addressing any concerns that you guys have specifically. So Jeremy, if you want to move forward to that question slide and open up to questions, that would be great. We'd really like to kind of have a conversation and be able to answer topics that are pertinent to the group.
Yep, and this is Anne with Lancaster City Alliance. Just a reminder, put your questions in the chat box and I'll help facilitate them. So go ahead and enter any questions you have in the chat box and we'll get them answered for you. Thanks. Nothing yet. Mark, are you seeing social media numbers jumping for your clients in general? I know our numbers are way up there, which is a great thing, but are you seeing that across the board?
Yeah, in general, yes. And I would ask Elisa to kind of step in and kind of add more detail, but just in general, yes, we're seeing an increase in reach, an increase in impressions, and an increase in engagement. And all of things are probably obvious based on the fact that a lot more people are online and spending a lot more time online. But I also think it speaks to the fact that people are looking for something to kind of distract them or just to kind of focus on that's not related to what's going on around them. And I think that social is where they find out information. It's where they get entertained. It's where they connect with people. So we are seeing a lot of that. And back to one of the points Elisa made earlier, you know, one of the things that was surprising was seeing the effect of paid advertising, where, you know, we understand that maybe you have to be mindful of how you use your money and be conservative about it. But even a small budget right now is just going a pretty good distance because the cost to reach people is going down because there's so many more people on, and because people are scaling back their budgets. It's just a supply and demand situation where it's almost easier to reach people right now, which can really, it's kind of like that concept of investing low. Like, you know, everybody panics when the stock market crashes, but certain people would tell you that's the perfect time to keep an eye on things and then invest because you can get in at a lower price point. Well, right now you could actually start advertising on social or continue advertising on social, and you're almost in a sense investing low because the cost to reach people is significantly lower. And if you kind of do something intentional where you can build up some audiences, that's going to give you access to those audiences again in the future, and you have kind of earned that right at a lower rate than you would have had you waited. So yeah, we're really seeing a lot of value in being active right now and present right now, pretty much across the board.
Yeah.
I don't know, Lisa, if you want to add anything, or Kevin, if you want to add anything.
Go ahead. I thought that was good. There are a list of questions. I wanted to make sure we didn't just, so I can actually, I see them. I can talk to them about them if that's okay.
Yep, go for it.
Great. So the first one was Judy. Is it okay to do video from your home, or should it be done from your shop? You know, that's a great question. Both, right? If you can get in your shop and you can do something that's pertinent to, you know, theoretically, let's say you sell clothes and you wanted to step in your shop and show off, hey, we're reminiscing about all those times we spent, you know, out Friday night at X, Y, and Z, and these are the outfits we're looking forward to pairing this summer. If you can do it, right, if you can get in there and you can show off a certain piece of content, absolutely. But there is a huge value to doing it from the comfort of your own home. That's relative to them. They understand it, right? And they also find it to be something that you're giving, a glimpse, some trust. So there's not a right answer. But I would say that if the content that you're sharing is pertinent to the service that you offer, if you can get in there, that helps. Does that help? Should I just go from there to the next one? Is that okay, Ann? Yeah.
I think that's okay. Yeah, we'll keep them moving because there's a couple in the queue.
Great. Is adapting the messaging and the business model temporary? It is. And I think that goes back to, and if I wasn't clear with typically we look at messaging every quarter or every 6 months or every year. What I'd suggest is considering taking a look at it weekly is what I would say. It's temporary in the sense that I believe this is all temporary in some regard. I think it's going to have long-standing effects, but what your message is should be adapting as rapidly as this situation is adapting. And then once we start to coast into a new normal or the future, yeah, you would go back to adapting it every 6 months or as needed. Your marketing should be adapted as needed. How does one take advantage of our 20-minute brainstorm sessions? I think on the last slide, we have an email address and a website that you can contact us at, and it's that simple. You'd reach out, Mark or I will reach back to you and we'll set something up. Do's and don'ts that you'd like to share for social media posts. Do not put out graphics that are hard sells right now without having public-facing commentary on what you're doing during COVID-19, whether or not that's we're doing curbside pickup, we're doing cleaning, we're doing whatever you're doing has to be present and accessible so it doesn't come across like you're not making the adjustments as everyone else is. That's a don't. I also wouldn't be pushing services in general if they're not sensitive. So if, for example, if you were to be selling shoes like Nike does, I would not just hard sell shoes. I would try to go more sentimental marketing right now and be, you know, reliable resource for the community first. So there's a rule out there, 4-1-1, you know, 4 posts that are going to be your services, and then 1 post that's educational and 1 post that's entertaining. I'd flip it. I'd flip it entirely. I wouldn't even think twice about it. I would start making majority of my content that hits the internet or digital media to be soft sells, supportive community sells. We're here, we're in this together, things of that nature. Or as far as back to if you have a long-standing history in the community, just simply saying, I'll use one of our clients, Fillings Clothing, as an example. Since 1929, that alone says we've been here, we'll be here, right? So take things that are not necessarily saying, hey, we're moving forward with business as usual.
big thing with that is just to recognize the situation that we're in. You don't need to focus on the negative and all the bad that's happening, but it's always nice, just like Kevin is saying, to have that idea of, I understand what's going on, here's the way that I'm helping my customers, and here's these ways. So that's definitely a good hard sell that you can sort of do, but it's still being sensitive to what's going on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Instagram versus Facebook Live for videos. I would say that there's no reason not to be present on both of them right now. And just a quick aside with the video, again, some best practices. Right now, I highly recommend you use your phone. I highly recommend that you shoot in portrait mode. And the reason why you shoot, not portrait mode, but portrait orientation. So I'll just show you my phone. Landscape is, or you can't see it. Landscape is if you were to hold it on its side, and portrait is if you were to hold it up. And here's why. Everyone is using mobile devices. And on your mobile phone and your mobile device or tablet, you have more real estate when you present that way. So that's a very simple thing. Not to mention it's what's being done by influencers, it's what's being done and people are accepting of it. But that's a definite thing that either on Facebook or Instagram, you should consider shooting that orientation. It just gives you more real estate and it allows for you to capture the audience's eye as they're scrolling through their feed a little bit easier.
With the Facebook or Instagram real quick, those are always going to be based on like whatever your audience is leaning towards. If you have a large audience on Facebook, that's probably a really good way to go if you just want to do one. Or Instagram too, they're really fantastic too. The main difference between those of them is just the platforms, how they interact. Instagram is really fantastic because they'll send your followers a notification that you're going live, while Facebook, they'll really promote it on their platform and it'll be at the top of their page.
Yep. That's a really good point. And you can consider doing this as well. Going live on the platform that you have a larger audience and then reusing that information maybe a day or two later if it's still pertinent on the second platform. And the reason being is because individuals have habits and routines. So someone might frequently check their Facebook every morning when they wake up, but they also might tap into Instagram later in the day. There are individuals that don't tap in 7 days a week. So there's a reason why to stagger some of your content and put it out on one and make it go live here and then repurpose it on the other at a later date. And then one other thing I wanted to mention real quick about Facebook and Instagram that I think is valuable is considering those stories. That feed that also happens at the very top of each of those platforms when you log in the app. That's called ephemeral content. And ephemeral content is content that lives for a very short period of time and is built in a way that encourages people to take action right now. It disappears. So we're trained to see stories and say, I should check this first because it's going to disappear shortly. So if you don't use stories, I'd consider using stories immediately. It's a good way to get people engaging. They check in on it. And the nice thing about stories is if you've ever been on Instagram and you've seen feeds that look beautiful and they look orchestrated, they're all linked together, people take a lot of time designing it. Your stories, the ephemeral content, are a lot more forgiving and expecting of being just authentic. So you can, when we talk about video, that's a place to throw video up without even hesitating. People are expecting that to be any business owner standing behind their or with their phone having a conversation. They're expecting it to be authentic there. The last question that we have right there, do you have any advice for entertainment, hospitality businesses? Feel like we don't have what the party scene is going to be. Yeah, so I think you have one of the larger opportunities, if you want my honest opinion, because there's nothing more exciting than watching someone put together a dish. There's no making, showing the ingredients and talking about their food. People, I mean, you have one of the easiest products to sell if you think about it. We eat 3 times a day. So I think that is a really, the going live and doing that kind of content is a really good opportunity. Can we have a little bit more information about what the party scene is going to be? Can you be a little bit more specific?
Amy is one of the premier entertainers in the city of Lancaster. She's a magnificent singer.
If you can let me expound, is that okay?
I'm okay with it, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I have an entertainment business and I have a couple of bands. And when I hear you talk about engaging in social media, that's really exciting to me. But I just want to make sure that if we're projecting things, if we're setting the stage for, you know, back when we're back together, I mean, obviously what we do involves large groups of people, and
Yeah.
we don't know what that scenario is going to look like. So I just wanted some feedback about whether, if we were projecting that things would go back to normal and we'd all be back together partying down, whether, you know, whether it be an entertainment company like myself or a venue or other entertainment related vendors, will it be perceived as insensitive?
Gotcha. It can be. I can't promise you that you're going to make, a graphic or an event for January 2021, and that you're not going to get someone commenting on it in a negative way. But that's, in the hospitality business and the entertainment business, you're always, in any business, you're always going to have someone that's going to be the person that kind of stirs the pot. But I think what you're asking is, there's two separate questions. What can I be doing right now in that field, right? And when is it okay for me to start talking about the going back to normal? And again, that goes back to the messaging and being willing to adapt frequently. I think that if you're going to be putting on events in the upcoming months, you'll likely begin by being aware of whether or not you're going to be able to hold the events. And once that's greenlit, I think there's no harm in talking about those events. In the meantime, though, your business model could shift to consider what the Fulton Theater did last night, where they went on, they created an event that lasted an hour and a half, and they had various artists come on and perform. There are ways to still be an entertainer. And that's kind of in part what we're suggesting is considering that business model shifting towards this. I'm just reading one. It's a little complicated, Heather. There are 10 of us, usually lag time. That makes, oh, that's not for me. Any other questions?
I just have a comment, Kevin.
Yep.
I have a suggestion for everyone that's here. It's something they can easily do on their social media platforms, and that's to support one another. Consider, oh, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm the social media manager for Lancaster City Alliance. Consider supporting one another by, there are many businesses that are open in some fashion right now with online presence and either free delivery or no contact pickup. And it's not just restaurants and cafes. Consider making a purchase.
Yep.
And then share that on social media. I've done so 3 times. Our team has done so. It makes for great content on your page, and it's just a nice way to show your support for the entire small business community in the city of Lancaster.
Yeah, and Kathleen, if I may, I'll kind of dovetail your last comment and apologize. One of our slides got a little discombobulated somewhere in the communication. One of the sections and one of the most important things that everyone can do right now is network. They're called social networks for a very specific reason. They're built to bridge any social distancing that you may ever come across in your life. That's how they were literally designed to do that. And Kathleen, what you had just mentioned ties right into a question that's posed at the end, and we'll wrap up here. Are there hashtags that you found to be particularly effective? Yeah, so if you get on Instagram and you scroll through, Lancaster County is one that has a nice channel. Lancaster, PA has a nice channel. They're stronger together. My only hesitation with using some of the little bit larger umbrellas for COVID-19 is that you're avoiding the opportunity of really recognizing that you're integrated in a very tight-knit community. So I wouldn't want to go global with the reach. And hashtags, they're definitely a way to increase impressions and reach. So I would begin by recognizing the ones that locally work well. that's Lancaster, PA, and Lancaster County work really well.
Well, we use, we're not Lancaster County. We're
Yep.
Lancaster. We use Lancaster Strong. We use hashtag Shop Small Dine Local.
Yep.
We use hashtag In This Together.
Those are all really good too. Yeah, if you type in the word Lancaster, usually in the hashtag section, they'll pop up some things, and some of the ones that Kathleen, you suggested are great options as well. I'll stop talking now so you guys can continue.
No, you've been absolutely wonderful, Kevin. Just tremendous.
I appreciate it.
Kevin, if this is Marshall, if I could just go back to Amy's question, which I thought was actually really good. And as we look to what's going to be happening in the future is something that we all have to consider. And that is exactly what is this new normal going to be? So, you know, Amy, going back to your question, I do think that there should be some sensitivity that, you know, the new normal is not going to be, at least right away, you know, probably huge gathering, you know, events. I don't know that should mean that you should not market what you do, but I think there should be some sensitivity there. But I also think that this is going to be a lot of what we are going to have to be talking about, especially as small business communities, retail communities, restaurant communities, you know, coming up, especially as the CDC, state, local folks are coming up with, you know, recommendations as we start to reopen the economy, and how that is, and how we publicize that effectively to the community, as making the community more comfortable in, you know, coming back to, you know, our establishments and, you know, restaurants and, you know, and events. So you know, that's all part of a larger sort of recovery plan that is in the works now, being spearheaded by EDC and the Chamber. But this is something that we're all going to have to be working together on. And as more information becomes available, you know, on that, I think that's another topic on, you know, how do we market ourselves, market our community to get people, you know, comfortable and coming out again. And I'll leave it at that.
Sorry, there's one more question that popped up at the end. I'm just having a quick look at. Yeah, so real quick, and if I may, I don't want to take up anyone's time. I recommend frequently reaching out to your audience in various forms to let them know how you're going about staying up to snuff with the regulations that have been put in place. And as often as they change is the same amount of times as you need to address it. Every time it changes, you must address it. Whether or not every single time you put out a public service announcement with the CEO or the owner of your business via video, I don't think that's necessary, but there should be a place on your website that you can update, right? A lot of businesses build in a banner that can live at the very top as an announcement. You should take to social media to make the adjustments, but you really need to. Unfortunately, the hardest part about marketing is that people often forget. If you don't tell them, they do not know. So you can't afford to wait a week until people assume you've made a change. If we expand to the 15th, which is going to happen, you should address that you're going to be taking precautions up until the 15th. People need to know. That's part of the responsible community member. And if you're taking steps to get professional cleaning, you know, in your business, absolutely. That's going to read a little differently than, hey, we're wiping down countertops. If you're taking measures, you need to be proud of the measures that you're taking to keep the community in order. So absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I think if that's all, that last slide right there, you know, Mark had mentioned, we'd love to have 20-minute sessions. I'll be honest, I'll likely hit 25, if not more than that. You can probably tell that I'm a talker. We look forward to having, you know, another opportunity to really personally communicate with you how this relates to you individually. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kevin, Mark, Lisa, thank you so much. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Kathleen, we have a few minutes. Do you want to do the Member Merchant Marketing Committee report?
Well, we covered most of the Merchant Marketing Committee report last week, but I can tell you
Thank you, Kathleen. Well, we could end this now, or if folks want to have an opportunity just to have a bit of an open discussion, what's on your mind, we could do that for the next 5 or 10 minutes as well. So I will leave that up to everyone. If someone wants to put anything in the chat box that you'd like to cover, we can then sort of open up for discussion. But if not, we can go back to our Friday and convene again for another virtual meeting soon. Any thoughts? Sounds like we should go enjoy our Friday.
yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Mark and Connective, thank you all again for a great presentation. It was great to see your faces, for those whose faces we could see, and we'll see you on the next time. Thank you all. Have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Thank you, Connective.
Bye.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. It was great. Thank you.